The only way to get ahead is not to belong to that generation. When Bill Clinton came to the White House in 1992, in early 1993, I interviewed many of the Xers he brought with him, and I asked them all. I said, tell me about your generation. And their first response was, I don't belong to that generation. I come from a good family. That was the instinctive response. We often, in our own writing, have called them America's 13th generation. They're literally the 13th in a row since the first U.S. generation of Sam Adams and Benjamin Franklin. We also sometimes call them a generation wearing shades. Anytime a boomer comes up to ask one of those principled, probing questions, the Xer can put on those Ray-Ban sunglasses, those reflecting sunglasses. That way, the Xer gets to keep his privacy, the boomer gets to look at himself. That makes everyone happy. You see how that works? But really, we also call them 13th because of the bad luck and ill timing of their life cycle. I mean, think about it. Childhood is becoming more indulgent for boomers. But by the time Xers came along, it approached the point of complete underprotection. And when Xers did come along in the early 1960s, childhood sank to the very bottom of society's priorities. Opinion polls showed that staying together for the sake of kids was no longer nearly as important as finding yourself and living the good life. Schools no longer seemed to function very well anymore. Families started breaking up. This was the opening wedge of the divorce revolution. The entire culture, in many ways, turned anti-child. I should mention, too, that after 1963, we didn't want to even have kids anymore. That's when the fertility rate sank hugely. This became known as a baby bust generation, right? No, we didn't want to have kids. But the culture... names and why someone else had to name them. Actually, it was Doug Coupland, who was an Xer. But it's an identity-hiding label, X. And part of it is because they don't think that their generation as a whole is going anywhere. So it's sort of like, I'm not the member of the same generation as this person right beside me, right? We also call them the America's 13th generation. They are literally the 13th in a row since the first U.S. generation of Sam Adams and Benjamin Franklin. We also call them 13 because the number conjures up some of the bad luck and ill timing of their life cycle. I mean, after all, when Generation X first came along, the early 1960s, it was a time when childhood was sinking to the very bottom of society's priorities. Families were beginning to break up. Schools didn't seem to function very well anymore. Polls showed that having kids was not so important as living the good life. Certainly, parents increasingly said they no longer wanted to stay together for the sake of their kids. And the entire culture turned anti-child. I remember at the time I was growing up in California.
In adulthood, and this will usually start a pretty lively argument at a Saturday night Gen X party, but it's pretty well documented. The women of Gen X in adulthood are proving themselves to be confident, competent, focused, while the guys of Gen X are kind of searching for their identity. Oh, look at the wives telling the husbands, that's you, honey. Gen X will take its turn at the top, and it will lead the United States of America. And it will do so sometime in the 2030s and through the 2040s. Like every other generation, they will almost certainly deliver some very good leaders and some very bad leaders. The generational leadership is all about what the entire generation does. What we now know is that when each generation takes its turn at the top, it instills those unique generational core values throughout American life. When that happens, that leadership generation always pushes America in a different direction from the prior generation's leadership. The good news about Gen X's leadership era, this generation is probably going to be brilliant at idea leadership. They're going to be very good at creating new products, new services, new processes, new efficiency.
why later. It was the way I was raised. And so we are seeing a shift. Is that happening where you are? We're seeing how we can work smarter, not harder. So Generation X comes on the scene. Now you got to understand, I'm going to paint a little picture for you. Generation X are people in their early 40s and their 30s. Do we have any Gen X in the room? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, we do. I've got to see a show of hands of how many Gen Ys in there. I got to hold on. How many people in here are 30 or under? Oh my goodness. Take a picture of that one. Okay, whoa, this is huge for me. I love this. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the Gen X story because Gen X wants you to know this story. Because Gen X, you're my favorite generation. You're my favorite generation because you are wedged in between two of the most self-absorbed generations there are. You are in between the baby boomer and Gen Y. I feel sorry for, let me see a show of hands of Gen X one more time so I know, okay guys, I'm going to massage all of you. Okay, Gen X. So here's the deal. The baby boomer comes on the scene. The baby boomer was raised by traditionalist parents or older. When the baby boomer cried, their parents would say, cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Now those old baby boomers are the Gen X parents, okay? Or traditionalists. So they are still being raised by tough parents. This generation was not coddled, okay? In fact, I asked Gen Xers, Gen X, does anybody remember their high school counselor? People go, did we have one? They don't remember because Gen X, we didn't really care about you. We just wanted you to get out and get going. Don't bother us. And so you're a generation that's very self-sufficient, okay? You're self-sufficient because the baby boomer mom goes off to work during the Gen X era. Before that, they were stay-at-home moms like Ozzie and Harriet. Now, that's very old. Now, Gen Y, you probably don't know that either. We'll have to do a little disclaimer on everything so I can explain. Okay, so the baby boomer mom goes off to work. There was no daycare, all right? And we look at the Gen Xer, the oldest child. Is anybody in the front row the oldest Gen Xer? Okay, you were, what's your name? So mom goes off to work and she goes, Lisa, mama's going off to work. She's nodding. How many brothers and sisters do you have, Lisa? She has one brother. What's their name? So Lisa, I want you to take care of Scott when you get home. I want you to help him get his homework done. Lisa, get your homework done too. And Lisa, could you please get dinner started? Make dinner. I got the crock pot. Lisa, all you have to do is plug it in. I've got it all set. Set the table. Lisa, could you clean up a little bit so when I walk home, right, I come in the door, the house looks good. And we would leave. And then we'd say, Lisa, if I call you, I'm going to have a code. Because we were afraid that they would come through the phone and find you. I'm going to do 2 rings and then I'm going to hang up. And then I'm going to call back, right? Lisa's nodding, right? And Lisa, lock the door. Don't let anybody in, right? And we left. We didn't get home till 6, 7, maybe even 8. And what was Lisa doing? She was watching MTV. She wasn't doing anything we told her to do. And Lisa was making tapes. Now you got to get this, Gen Y. This is what the technology was like when Lisa was 14. Lisa liked a song on the radio. She would get the tape recorder out and she would push it next to the radio. Listen to this technology. She would listen for the DJ to stop talking and then she would press record, right? And she would make tapes of her favorite music. And then she got very creative. Her tapes had themes. Like her boyfriend broke up with her and all the songs were sad love songs, right? Oh, Lisa's like blushing, right? And when she was happy and she fell in love, woo, all love songs. And here's the deal, when I speak, Gen X guys come up to me and they go, yeah, but we did albums. We didn't do one song at night, they played the whole album and then we would record the albums. And then another Gen X guy would come up to me and go, Mandy, you didn't talk about our bands. We would rig things together. The word is rig. There was no technology. Things were being held together with duct tape. So why? You know what duct tape even is, right? Because now we just press a button. We've got the symphony behind us, right? We sing to YouTube. You've got everything at your head. But this generation, Generation X, this is a generation that discovered everything for themselves. It's the most creative of all the generations because we left you alone to do what you wanted. And you fell in love with your media, you fell in love with your music, and you didn't want to hide it. We trademarked and copyrighted it, but you wanted to share it. And as you shared those tapes, and as we shared our music, you opened up a concept that is with us today. It's about sharing. And so now we have a generation that wants to give. And so we now are changing our point of view. And when you came on the scene, I'm sorry, Gen X, we called you slackers. We called you slackers because you wanted work-life balance. We wanted you to work. Forget about your kids' soccer game. Stay at work. We didn't want you to take time off. Work-life balance was just a thing we checked off of a list. Today, it's the way we are, right? You're innovative and creative. You're self-reliant and practical. But you're questioning and cynical. We're sorry. You were the first generation that had to check their Halloween candy because a neighbor could have put razor blades into the milk duds. Gen Y, you had no idea. They couldn't go trick-or-treating because pins could be in the fruit. We stopped giving fruit altogether. Throw that apple away, throw that away, because we were so afraid that you would get poisoned. This is the first generation that saw their priests on the cover of Time magazine, not for good things, right? It's a generation that doesn't trust the janitor or the teachers. It's the first generation where we had Watergate and we started not trusting. So we have a generation that doesn't buy in. They don't buy in, and they're loyal to people, not organizations. So if they like you, if you're the boss and they like you, they're loyal to you, and they will follow people rather than stay with organizations. And this is a shift in the way we're thinking. And you need to understand the trends, and you need to understand the shifting, because this is where the customer is. And so we are now going to a place of giving. This is a generation who doesn't like hoopla, Gen Y. They're not crazy that you want to have the employee of the day. They think that they don't want the employee of the week. They don't want celebration, right? They really just want honest communication. Gen X, you got to take over leadership right now. It's your time. Because we have now the biggest generation. And here's the deal. People say, well, I can't wait for Gen Y to be over. After you, Gen Y, guess what's coming? It's going to be more challenging. They say it's Gen Z. So what's coming is just the tip of the iceberg as to the changes that are being made.
I argue in the book that Gen Xers are doing the quiet work of keeping America from sucking. You've got three generations in question: the baby boomers, who will not give up